I know right now as I'm writing this, it's the middle of winter, but this actually happened a few months ago on Halloween. Wasn't sure if I wanted to share this, but after debating it for a while, I decided I might as well just in case it helped someone else not fall for the same situation I did. I live in a really old apartment building on the outskirts of town, which wasn't necessarily a bad area, but it was definitely far from being nice. It was where most who couldn't afford to live in the city end up settling down at since all the houses and buildings were built in the early 1900s, so they were cheap. My apartment had been renovated a few times, but overall, it was still noticeably in bad shape. A ton of the people living in the other units moved out in just the last couple years and all the rooms were left vacant. I don't think whoever owned the building ever tried to rent out the rooms. Maybe they wanted people to move out. I don't know. And after a while, I genuinely think I was the only one still living in that building. It felt like every time I walked in or out through the halls, I never heard a single sound or saw anyone at all. It was just an empty, forgotten building that somehow I was the only one still living in. I distinctly remember a month or so before this event, I had tossed some stuff in the dryer before walking out of the building to head to work. And down all 3 stories of the building, I could hear my dryer rumbling through the walls, filling the silence in the staircase and the hallways. That's how quiet and vacant it was. Anyway, I worked on Halloween, and being older and living in an apartment, there wasn't much for me to celebrate. So, I tossed my work stuff on the floor and just sat on the couch to maybe watch a horror movie or pull up a Halloween-themed video on YouTube. It was around 9 p.m. when the sudden knock at the door to my unit nearly had me paralyzed from how much it startled me. 3 loud knocks and then it was just quiet and they were definitely at my door. I got up, still shaken and confused that not only was this the first I'd heard of anyone being in the building for months, but also that they were at my door. I walked over and cracked the door open and was even more confused. There was a kid. She was wearing a Halloween costume and holding up a bag. I must have stared at her for a whole 10 seconds frozen and trying to figure out what the hell was going on. The girl didn't say anything either. She just stood there looking at me through her mask. The bag she held up was empty. No candy in it. And I felt bad that I didn't have any to hand out, but I was more focused on figuring out where she even came from. How did you get in here? Do your parents live in this building? She didn't speak. Didn't really seem fazed by the question either. Honestly, had no emotion. I leaned my head into the hallway and looked down past the girl. No one else was out there. No parents, no other kids. It was dead silent in the whole building. I was about to ask another question, but she suddenly turned away and walked down the hall to the staircase and left. I stood there for a minute, hearing her go down the stairs and seemingly out of the building. Didn't knock on any other doors or stop at any rooms. Something was really strange about that. I closed and locked my door behind me, but I felt like I needed answers. All these months of not hearing or seeing a single person or sign that anyone else was in this building, and then suddenly one night, a girl shows up at my door. It just didn't seem right. I spent a few minutes trying to look out the windows at the parking lot in front of the building, but my car was the only one there, just like it always was, and no one else was outside. It was dark and vacant. After a few more minutes of thinking about it, I threw on my jacket and decided to head out to look around. I went into the hallway, stopping to listen for a moment, then walked down to the staircase. As I walked downstairs, the building seemed just as dead as usual. No signs of anyone else on any of the other floors. When I got down to the bottom, I looked outside from the front door. The girl was definitely gone now, and there was no one near the building whatsoever. I know it was Halloween, but this kind of had me legitimately creeped out. And as I was closing the front door, I noticed something else. The keypad next to the door had a blinking light. Now, this was just one of those old keypads with the buzzers that I guess used to work, but since I'd been there, it wasn't functional. I always used my physical key, and even if you press the buttons on the keypad, it wouldn't light up or show any signs that it was working. I assumed it was completely disconnected. So, seeing the lights suddenly on and blinking was pretty strange. I closed the door and tested to see if it locked, thinking maybe the blinking light meant the door wasn't locking properly, but it seemed to lock just as usual. So, I started heading back up to my unit. I didn't like the feeling of being outside of my room, not with the strange things going on this night. I walked up past the first floor and then the second, but stopped in my tracks as I passed the hallway. I backed up and looked down it, confirming what I saw out the corner of my eye. One of the unit doors was open. That had just happened during the couple minutes between me walking downstairs and coming back up. "Hello." My voice echoed down the hall and there was not a sound in response. A chill hit my body and I quickly hurried up to my room, getting in and closing the door behind me. I felt like my whole body went into panic mode for a second. I took a deep breath and started to walk into the living room before sudden loud knocks hit the door behind me. I hadn't even been inside for 10 seconds. I called out hello again as I stared at the door. The person knocked again, but didn't say anything. I quietly walked up to the other side of the door and I looked out the peephole. I saw a man. He had full black clothing and a hood draped over his face. He hit the door again and stood right up to the door like he was pressing on it so that as soon as I turned the handle the door would fly open. I took a few steps back and suddenly I heard something else. Footsteps from the outside hallway. There was more than one. I heard them start whispering, but all I could hear were low mumbles through the thin walls. I could feel that whatever this wasn't over. I got my phone and dialed 911, then tried to find a place to hide. It was just a one-bedroom tiny apartment, so my options weren't great. I decided to go out onto the balcony, which had blinds covering it. And not a minute later, there was a slight thump inside the building. And then I saw light slowly shine into the room as the door creaked open. I was looking through the small cracks between the blinds. Two men walked in and started looking around. My heart was racing. They were inside for a while, even coming right up near the blinds to the balcony, but eventually left. I waited out there in the cold for 10 minutes before cops got there. No one else was inside the building. And from the investigation, I did find out that I was the only one living in the building still, at least legally. No one else should have had access aside from the owner. But I didn't get many answers as to what was really going on. It felt like the men had used the little girl to condition me to open the door so that when they knocked, I wouldn't think twice and would just open the door. I moved out in the following days and it seemed like after moving away, everything died out. The police stopped giving any updates and the whole situation faded into nothing. I don't know what those men wanted from me or what was really going on in that building. And I'm thankful I didn't have to find out that night. Like and subscribe for true horror stories daily. Comment horror if you made it to the end. See you in the next nightmare.